This is the OnePlus 15, and it kind of looks like the Oppo Find X9 Pro that I've had for a couple of months now. And the biggest difference between these two are two things, the cameras and the processor inside this phone. Now, the cameras on the OnePlus 15 isn't tuned by Hasselblad anymore, and the processor, well, instead of it being a MediaTek Dimensity 9500, it's the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5, which I'm sure a lot of power users are gonna prefer. But let me tell you why this phone is so good, but kind of a letdown at the same time. So just like any other review on this channel, let's quickly talk about its specs. Okay, so the OnePlus 15 that I'm reviewing has 16 gigs of RAM and 512 gigs of storage, which is the top tier spec for the OnePlus 15, but it's also available with 12 gigs of RAM with 256 gigs of storage. Now, the processor inside is, of course, the newest Snapdragon 8 Elite processor, which is the 8 Elite Gen 5. So this thing is an absolute champ when it comes to performance and battery efficiency. And yeah, this new 8 Elite Gen 5 is awesome. Now, in terms of battery, it's packing a massive 7,300 milliamp hour battery. So it's a pretty massive upgrade over last year's OnePlus 13. And of course, a lot bigger than most of the flagships that you can buy here in the US, like the S25 Ultra, the Pixel 10 Pro, and the iPhone 17 Pro Max. Now, you can also fast charge this up to 100 watts and still retain that 50-watt wireless charging that we had before. Now, unfortunately, there's still no Qi 2.2 or MagSafe-like feature built in like the Pixel 10 series, but in positive cases with MagSafe will be available from, OnePlus directly or through a third-party case manufacturer. Now, in terms of its design, it's a pretty big design overhaul from previous OnePlus phones. The circular camera deco that we all know and love is now gone, and in place of that is a square module on the upper left side of the phone, which we first saw this design on the Oppo Find X9 series of phones. Now, this isn't surprising because Oppo and OnePlus is pretty much the same company at this point, except it's not. But let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of this change. Do you like it? Do you hate it? I personally like it, especially in this sandstorm color. It has this nice matte finish on the side rails and a matte look but smooth finish on the back. It feels very premium compared to previous OnePlus phones too. So in terms of its display, OnePlus said that compared to OnePlus 13, the 15 got a 42% bezel reduction, which means this phone has a 95.5% screen to body ratio, and it's exactly 1.15 millimeters on all its sides, and that in my eyes look amazing. It really is nice on the eyes, and the symmetrical bezels is definitely flagship worthy. Now, besides the reduced bezels, the display did get slightly smaller, but it isn't something that I noticed when I compared it to last year's OnePlus 13. It's still that beautiful, colorful, bright display that we know from recent OnePlus flagships, and it has a high brightness mode of 1800 nits, and instead of having a super crazy bright peak display, it can now push 165 Hz only if the game supports it. Otherwise, it's rated for that 1 to 120 Hz variable refresh rate. Now, besides the super fast refresh rate, this is also rated IP69K, and basically what that means is that it has the highest ingress protection rating on any flagship smartphone right now, and it can basically, handle high pressure, high temperature water jets, aka your dishwasher or, a jacuzzi, which is kind of insane. Okay, so before we jump into performance on the 8 Elite Gen 5, let's talk about the massive 7,300 milliamp hour battery on here. Now, the fact that this packs a massive battery on a phone this size is kind of insane, because the battery on this phone is bigger than the battery on my iPad mini. But besides that comparison, the OnePlus 15 is definitely a two-day type of phone, no doubt about it. And if you're not a big gamer or someone who shoots a ton of photos or videos, you can easily get 2 to 2.5 days easy on this phone. And then jumping into performance, I think the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 is hands down the best mobile processor out right now, beating Apple's A19 Pro and just beating MediaTek's new Dimensity 9500. It's a fast phone, no joke. If you're after the best of the best performance on a mobile phone right now, the 8 Elite Gen 5 is the way to go. It's great at gaming, but it's also very power efficient. Now, the past month that I've had this phone, I've been to so many different countries where it's about 90 plus degrees Fahrenheit or about 32 degrees Celsius. And, whether I'm just using Google Maps for GPS or maybe I'm playing Genshin Impact for 30 plus minutes just to pass time, not once did I feel this phone get hot. It'll get warm for, everyday normal tasks, but not to a point where it got super hot to the touch. Since this has a dual layer vapor chamber inside, it's able to keep the 8 Elite Gen 5 pretty cool for most tasks. Now, if you do want to stress test this phone and to a point where, it'll get pretty hot to the touch, you can probably run benchmarks back to back to back, or do what I did and run a PC emulator and play Steam games on here. And when I did that, I got it to throttle after about 35 minutes of gaming, and it got pretty hot to the touch. But if you're just using this phone normally, it will not get hot nor overheat on you, at least for my testing. Now, just to give you guys some numbers with Geekbench and how it fares compared to other flagship phones, you can see how powerful the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 really is compared to other chipsets. All right, so cameras, in my opinion, is what really makes every single smartphone that comes out different nowadays. It used to be, the display or the processor or software, but I think we've kind of hit a plateau on those where every single device is just as good display-wise and just as fast performance-wise. And, the real differences that you'll see between all of these smartphones nowadays are two things. It's software and it's cameras. So the OnePlus 15 packs a triple camera setup on the back, and all three are 50 megapixels, and they're honestly not as good as last year's OnePlus 13 if you consider how photos are being processed. Now, out in great lighting, the OnePlus 15 can shoot incredible looking photos, whether, it's the main wide camera or the 3.5x telephoto or the ultra wide camera. The shots I've been able to take look clean with very balanced colors that isn't super saturated, and the shadows aren't being crushed, giving us a good balance of, contrasty and not so contrasty images. I guess it just really depends on how you shoot your photos outdoors. Now, where I think the OnePlus 15 falls short though is when it comes to low light photos or, low light scenarios in general. From my experience, photos are often shot using higher ISO, so majority of the photos tend to look a little bit more grainy or over processed, especially when you zoom in using that 3.5x zoom. But also the time it takes to press and capture the shots in low lit areas isn't as fast as other flagship phones in this price range. It loves to activate night mode as much as possible just because the sensors that OnePlus put on this phone isn't as big as the sensors on last year's OnePlus 13. And also the white balance doesn't seem to capture how colors are in real life. It tends to shoot a little bit warmer, especially the telephoto lens. I particularly am not bothered by that, but you might. So yeah, I'm not sure what OnePlus was thinking here when they were making this phone. I'm not sure why, go for smaller sensors when the camera system on the OnePlus 13 were pretty good already. So as for the videos, it's nothing special or anything to rave about. I'd say it's comparable to last year's OnePlus 13 when it comes to quality. Like the photos though, I wouldn't recommend shooting videos, especially log videos on this at night. And yeah, that's the OnePlus 15 in a nutshell after a month of owning the phone. Year over year, I think this is the best OnePlus phone since the OnePlus 10 Pro, but with, tariffs and how expensive everything is nowadays, seeing a OnePlus phone sell for $1,000 is kind of crazy. So is this a great bang for the buck device? No, but is it a really crazy powerful phone? Yes, and especially if you're after a gaming phone, this is a great choice. But if you want a more all-around device, I have two phones that I'll recommend in just a little bit. Honestly, if the cameras were similar to Oppo's Find X9 Pro, then I'd say this is definitely phone of the year. Now, as someone who loves shooting photos and videos whenever I'm traveling, the $1,000 price tag is very steep when I know that Vivo's X300 Pro exists and I can pick that up for maybe about $100 more. Now, yes, you won't get a massive battery or the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5, but I'd rather get the better camera system with a slightly slower chipset and a smaller battery than have something I won't necessarily enjoy using every day. Right now, at the time of making this video, the OnePlus 15 isn't even available here in the US, which is kind of odd. Now, if you are itching to upgrade to a Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 phone, right now I can recommend two phones that won't break the bank and won't cross that $1,000 price tag. Now, it's not going to have the Vivo X300 Pro cameras, but it can definitely compete with the OnePlus 15's camera at a cheaper price tag. Now, the iQOO 15, which is primarily sold in India, but is now available in the global market running the same Origin OS as the Vivo X300 Pro, is pretty much a gaming-focused smartphone just like the OnePlus 15. It's got the same processor, similar camera setup at 50 megapixels for all three cameras. It's got a slightly better display, a 7,000 milliamp hour battery, and it's roughly 650 USD. Now, if you want a more all-around smartphone that has a 6,500 milliamp hour battery, the same Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5, a triple 50 megapixel camera setup, and an incredible set of speakers with a subwoofer tuned by Bose. The newly announced Poco F8 Ultra is around $700-ish and would probably be a better upgrade than the OnePlus 15. It's a pretty awesome phone that I think is pretty unique looking, but also the speaker setup is next level. Now trust me, I want to love the OnePlus 15, but for its price and what you're getting out of it, there's a ton of other phones for $1,000 that I personally think are better overall. But if you're only after the biggest battery on a smartphone right now and that 165 Hz screen for gaming, then hey, upgrade. But if you want phone of the year, I think the Vivo X300 Pro is the best smartphone this year, and it's the best all-around phone for the money in 2025.